Most people think getting rich means working hard, earning a bigger salary, or climbing higher in someone else's system. Naval Ravikant has a very different view. He says the goal is not to look rich. The goal is not to win status. The goal is freedom. Freedom from money problems. Freedom from other people's approval. Freedom from doing work you secretly hate. And eventually, freedom from the constant noise inside your own mind. That is why the Almanack of Naval Ravikant, compiled by Eric Jorgenson, has become such a powerful book for entrepreneurs, creators, investors, and anyone trying to build a better life. It is not a normal business book. It is part wealth manual, part philosophy guide, and part reminder that success without peace is still a kind of trap. The book is built around two big questions. First, how do you build wealth? Second, how do you become happy? Naval's answer is simple, but not easy. Wealth and happiness are both skills. They can be learned. But to learn them, you have to stop copying the crowd. Let's start with wealth. Naval makes a sharp distinction between wealth, money, and status. Money is how we transfer time and wealth. Status is your rank in the social hierarchy. But wealth is different. Wealth is assets that earn while you sleep. A business, software, media, investments, intellectual property, a product people can buy again and again. This distinction matters because many people spend their entire lives chasing status and calling it ambition. They want the impressive title, the visible lifestyle, the approval of people they may not even respect. But status is a zero-sum game. For one person to move up, someone else has to move down. That makes it emotional, political, and exhausting. Wealth, when created ethically, can be positive-sum. You build something useful. Other people benefit. You benefit too. So the first lesson is, seek wealth, not status. But how do you actually build wealth? Naval's answer begins with specific knowledge. Specific knowledge is knowledge you cannot easily learn in school and cannot easily outsource. It is often found by following your genuine curiosity. It may look strange to other people at first because it is personal. Maybe you understand software and storytelling. Maybe you understand design and psychology. Maybe you understand finance and communities. Maybe you have a rare feel for what a particular group of people wants before the market sees it. Specific knowledge is not just a credential. It is an edge. It is the combination of abilities, taste, experience, and obsession that makes you unusually good at something valuable. The key is that specific knowledge usually feels like play to you, but looks like work to others. That is one of Naval's most useful ideas. If you can find work that feels like play to you, you can keep going longer, learn faster, and build deeper skill than someone who is only forcing discipline. This does not mean life becomes effortless. It means you are choosing a game where your natural curiosity helps you compound. A helpful way to understand Naval's wealth advice is to see it as a sequence, not a motivational slogan. First, you find specific knowledge. Then you attach that knowledge to leverage. Then you take accountability, so the market can connect the result back to you. Then you seek ownership, so the upside does not disappear the moment you stop working. If one piece is missing, the system becomes weaker. Specific knowledge without leverage can turn into a private hobby. Leverage without judgment can create bigger mistakes. Accountability without skill can expose you before you are ready. And work without ownership can keep you busy while someone else captures most of the compounding. This is why Naval's philosophy is so practical. He is not just saying, be smarter, work harder, or think positive. He is describing the structure of modern opportunity. In a connected world, the person who combines rare knowledge, clear judgment, trust, and scalable distribution can create far more value than someone who is simply trying to be more productive inside an old model. The next lesson is leverage. In the old world, leverage mostly meant labor and capital. You needed people working for you, or you needed money to invest. Those still matter. But the modern world has created new forms of leverage, code, and media. A piece of software can serve millions of people. A video can be watched while you sleep. A book, podcast, newsletter, or online course can travel far beyond your physical presence. This is permissionless leverage. You do not need someone to appoint you. You can build and publish. That changes the meaning of work. If you only sell your time, your income is limited by the hours you can work. But if you build assets with leverage, your judgment can scale. This is why Naval emphasizes ownership. You are not going to get truly wealthy by renting out your time forever. You need equity. You need a piece of something that can grow. That might mean starting a company, owning part of a business, building an audience, creating intellectual property, or investing in assets. The form can vary, but the principle is the same, on the upside. But leverage has a cost. The more leverage you have, the more your judgment matters. If a person with no leverage makes a bad decision, the damage may be small. If a person with massive leverage makes a bad decision, the damage scales. That is why Naval treats judgment as one of the highest value skills. Judgment is the ability to see reality clearly. It means making decisions without being blinded by ego, fear, identity, or social pressure. Naval's approach to judgment includes reading, mental models, clear thinking, and a willingness to change your mind. One of the book's strongest ideas is that you should shed fixed identities. The more tightly you cling to an identity, the harder it becomes to see truth. If you define yourself as a certain kind of person, with a certain tribe, ideology, or image, you may start defending that identity instead of updating your beliefs. Clear thinking requires humility. It requires asking, what is true, even if it is inconvenient? This connects to reading. Naval is deeply pro-reading, but not in a rigid way. He does not treat reading as a school assignment. He treats it as a way to build better software for your mind. Read what interests you. Quit books that do not hold you. Follow curiosity. Return to the best books again and again. The goal is not to finish more books so you can brag about the number. The goal is to absorb mental models that help you make better decisions. Now, wealth is only half the book. The second half asks an even harder question. Once you have more freedom, how do you become happy? Naval's answer is not that happiness comes from getting everything you want. In fact, he points in almost the opposite direction. Much of our unhappiness comes from desire, comparison, and the mind's refusal to be here now. A desire is like a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. That idea is uncomfortable because most of us build our lives around wanting. We want more money, more recognition, more control, more proof that we are enough. Some desires are useful, but many become invisible sources of tension. Naval is not saying you should become passive. He is saying you should be careful about what you allow to control your peace. Happiness, in this book, is learned through awareness. Notice the mind. Notice comparison. Notice the stories you keep repeating. Notice how often the present moment is actually fine until thought adds a problem. This is why Naval connects happiness with presence. If your mind is always replaying the past or negotiating with the future, peace becomes impossible. But if you can return to the present, even briefly, you begin to see that happiness is less about adding something and more about removing disturbance. This part matters because many ambitious people secretly postpone happiness. They tell themselves they will relax after the next achievement, after the next income goal, after the next proof that they have made it. But the mind that is trained to postpone peace does not suddenly become peaceful when the goal arrives. It usually just chooses a new target. Naval's challenge is to build the outer life and the inner life at the same time. You can pursue wealth seriously while still noticing whether your ambition is making you more free or more trapped. That also changes the meaning of success. If you become wealthy but remain addicted to status, you are not free. If you earn more money but still need constant approval, you are not free. If you build a business but cannot sit quietly with yourself, you are not free. The deeper lesson of the book is that outer freedom and inner freedom have to grow together. Outer freedom comes from wealth, assets, ownership, leverage, useful skills, and good judgment. Inner freedom comes from peace, fewer compulsive desires, less comparison, more presence, and better relationship with your own mind. Put together, Naval's philosophy becomes a practical operating system. Build specific knowledge. Use leverage. Own equity. Play long-term games with long-term people. Protect your reputation. Improve your judgment. Read widely. Avoid status games. Choose work that feels like play. And remember that the point of wealth is not to impress people. The point is to buy back your time and attention. Then use that freedom wisely. Do not just become rich and restless. Become free and calm. A simple way to apply this book is to ask yourself 3 questions. First, what knowledge do I have, or could I build, that feels natural to me and valuable to others? Second, where can I add leverage so my work can create value beyond my hours? Third, what desire, comparison, or status game is quietly stealing my peace? If you answer those honestly, the book stops being a collection of interesting ideas and becomes a mirror. It shows you where you are still renting your time, where you are still copying the crowd, and where you are still giving away your happiness. There is also a useful warning here. Naval's ideas are easy to quote and hard to live. It is easy to say you want leverage, but harder to stop doing low-value busy work. It is easy to say you want happiness, but harder to give up the identity, argument, or desire that keeps your mind tense. So the book is not asking for one dramatic life change. It is asking for a different direction. Each week, build a little more ownership. Make one decision with more clarity. Read one thing that improves your thinking. Let go of one status game. Over time, those small choices compound into a very different life. The Almanack of Naval Ravikant is ultimately not about becoming rich in the shallow sense. It is about becoming harder to control, harder to distract, harder to impress, harder to make miserable. That is the real promise of the book. Build wealth so you can own your time, and build wisdom so you can enjoy it. If you enjoyed this summary, subscribe to One Book in 10 Minutes. We turn the world's most valuable books into clear, practical lessons you can use in real life. One book, 10 minutes. Better